Welcome. Hello there, old and new. Not your age, but if it's your first time here or if you've been here for a long time. We've got an intermediate level lesson we're going to be doing soon. In the meantime, we're early. We'll start at the top of the hour. Let's see who's in the chat right now. I did see a few names I recognized already. Lady Nat Bug, Nauer, Cosma, Stay, Kai, Alexandra, Nish, Ruchi, Jenny, Dagny, Keith. Hello. Keith singing Mr. Rogers' theme song. B, welcome, welcome. Claire, a couple other people I recognize. Kai says, I'm actually only 3 hours old. How is that possible? How are you only 3 hours old? Cosma said, is this song new? Probably. I did add a couple new songs. I don't know if it's a new one playing. But yeah, we'll get started with the lesson at the top of the hour. In the meantime, if you have any Korean questions, you can ask them now freely before the lesson starts. Once the lesson starts, I'll only be taking questions related to the lesson. So before or after the stream is the best time to answer. The lesson we're going to be doing today is very large. I've taught this topic before briefly. Like the most important part of the topic I've already taught before in a live stream like 6 years ago. I think 2019. Let me check. I didn't write it down. Anyway, I think 2019 or something I did it. And that time I only taught the most common usage of this form and nothing else. We didn't really go in detail because, I mean, frankly, for most usage, you don't need to. But since this is a lesson specifically about this form, we're going into all the detail. Like everything, whether you wanted to know it or not. It's going to be a little bit of TMI. Maybe you didn't want to know this much about the grammar form, but you're going to learn all of it today. So because of that, this is a form that you want a lot of examples to really get the hang of. And I'm going to be covering several for each of the forms we're doing. Well, that's a spoiler. It's one form, but there are multiple forms. But I'll be covering a few example sentences for each form. But I really recommend the worksheet for this lesson. It's already on my Patreon page. You can download it right now if you're one of my paid Patreon members, even at the $1 tier. And you get 20 additional sentences using this form. So I highly recommend getting that one. Oh, and then next Sunday, there is no live class or live stream, actually, at all. But then we'll come back the week after that. So yeah, last week was a class, this week's a class, next week's off. Other thing that I wanted to mention is the live, what is it? Not the live stream. The podcast is also coming back. If you're one of my Patreon members, you can listen to the newest episode this Friday morning. I think it's at 6 a.m. Yeah, 6 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time right now. And you can listen to the episode early. I'll also be filming another episode this week. So got some fun topics that are coming up for the second season of the podcast. Reading some of the comments here. When are you going to make that topic video? So I actually made a topic video, basic topic video, just with some tips for how to take the test, how to do well on it, how to prepare for it. But I haven't had a chance to edit it yet because I've been editing all my other videos I've filmed in Korea. But it will be coming up sometime in the next several months, I'll say. Definitely in the next several months. But I don't have any plans to make like a separate topic course, though, because I personally don't have any plans to do the topic. In order to do that properly, I need to take the newest topic test to create an actual course for it. But the video should be enough. It tells you how to do that. Yeah, not even a surprise one next week. I normally surprise you by doing one anyway, but I can't do that actually. My speaking skills are average, that I can deliver a 5-minute speech. That's not bad if you can do that. I'm not advanced enough to listen to your podcast. Yes, you are. The podcast has subtitles for the Korean part that you can turn on and off. There's one subtitle that's only Korean if you want to try that. Another one that's Korean with English. So if you don't speak any Korean, you can still watch my podcast. It's for all levels. Okay, let's see. GKC says, I'm speaking Korean every day, but my speaking skills are still bad. I would need to know more information about how are you say you're speaking every day. How? What are you doing for your speaking? And how much are you speaking every day? Um, there are, it's totally possible though that you would be doing an hour of speaking practice and not improving Korean every day if you're only speaking and not doing any studying or listening. But I would need to know more about your situation to give you advice that actually works instead of just generic advice like study more, practice more. If you tell me exactly what's going on, I can give you specific targeted advice for your situation, but I would need to know more. First time in the live stream, says JLFT. Welcome. Jazz asks, do you know any websites where you can practice sound change rules? The sound change rules are more, I mean, you can check on Naver Dictionary. If you search any word, then below the definition in the Korean section, it'll show you the pronunciation for it. Usually there's only one. Sometimes there's actually two. I've actually made a video about that before. Some sounds can have more than one official pronunciation, but that's not a big issue. If you ever do see two, though, just know that either of them is fine. But most of the time it's just one, and you can check it there. So for practice, just search any word you want. Read the sound change, how it's pronounced. That's pretty much it. Some of them though would be really tricky to have to like if someone were to make a game or whatever for practicing sound changes, I think it would be really tricky because sometimes you don't know how the sound change rule is supposed to be spelled, even if you know how to say it. So I would just say check words whenever you look them up and you're not sure how to pronounce them, go to Naver Dictionary and it'll show you the pronunciation right below. There are, though, even some cases where the word is pronounced differently than that. But that would be like if you see a foreign word like bus or dance, coffee. No, not coffee, but cafe, latte. Like there are a bunch of, not all, but a lot of foreign words that might be pronounced with double consonants. And if you ever hear that, just know that's what's going on. But that's not the official pronunciation. That's just how people will tend to do it. And there are a bunch of little things here and there, but for the most part, yeah, that's pretty much it. Just search it in Naver Dictionary. Using HelloTalk every day, I have Korean friends, but my speaking skills. How are you speaking? Because HelloTalk is not a speaking app unless you're using it for voice calls. But I would need more information. You haven't really given me any like concrete information that I could use to help you, at least without giving you, again, generic advice, which I don't really like giving generic advice if someone specifically asks me for help with something. Yeah, I have a cheat sheet with all the sound change rules on it. Of course, it doesn't have every single word and sound change, but it does have all of the main rules. Let's see. Lola says, I check words in Youglish. Yeah, that could be good. I know that lets you find like videos of native speaking using that word that you're searching. But really, Naver Dictionary has all of that already. And you don't have to watch a video to get it. You just click the word. It has a speaker file. There you go. Helen asks, 많은 뜻이 있겠는데 후회를 표현하고 싶을 때도 쓸 수 있다는 걸로 알고 있어요. That's a different form. We will be mentioning that today, but that's not the form we're doing today. Because this one is 걸 with a 요. That one is 걸 with 그랬다. So slightly different form. Okay, let's see. I can answer just a couple questions and we'll get started with the class right at the top of the hour. Let me see if I missed any others. Lola's saying we're starting a bit earlier. Oh, no, we're not starting. We always start the class at the same time. Sometimes I'll turn on the live stream a little bit earlier, though, just to make sure everything's working fine. Okay, make sure. Caught up. Okay, now I'm caught up with all the messages. Jenny as well. How can I get better with speaking? I know the action, but I'm short on words. I would need to know more about your situation. If anyone wants like advice, the more details you give me, the better I can give you advice. Like if you go and like there will be videos like how to improve your speaking, but those will always be general advice that just kind of apply to everyone. And I can give you that too. How do you improve your speaking? Well, you find a partner to practice speaking with, but also don't neglect to do more listening practice. You know, I can do the general advice, but I'd like to give you specific advice for your situation. If you have a question, like you'd like to improve something specifically, tell me what things are you doing exactly? Like how much are you doing those? And then if you're lacking in something, like how are you lacking in it? Instead of just get better speaking, like what's your current level? What are you currently doing for speaking? A lot of these little details are things that normally like a tutor would talk with you over the course of like 30 minutes and figure out exactly what you're doing and what you need. But yeah, I mean, without any more information, how do I improve my speaking? You need to do more speaking, but also you need to increase your listening a lot more than that. You need to have words that you can pull from your brain. And the only way to get those words in the first place is from reading them or listening to them. So more content that you can kind of understand, slightly above your level, but not too much. Focus on content that's 100% in Korean without any sort of English subtitles. And you need to do that consistently. So every day, like 20 minutes to an hour every single day, have listening practice. And then speaking as well. You need to have consistently a lot of speaking practice. So make friends. Friends are like the easiest way. Get a friend online that will let you speak in Korean with them and will help you with your Korean. Tutors are good if you can't find any friends. Just have someone to speak with. But yeah, that's the generic advice I'll give you. Welcome, Lexica. 안녕하세요, 빌리 선생님. Welcome. Every time I get stuck speaking in any language, the reason is I didn't prepare enough vocab and grammar for what I'd like to say. That is still going to be that's actually the case for pretty much any Korean speaker who's not native, is you're never going to have all of the grammar and all the vocab that you want. But the thing is, what you learn to do is you learn to work with what you have. So for example, if you forget, like, I don't know, say you forget the word 망치 for hammer, and you're talking about how you went to the oh, what's the word for hardware store, and I bought what's the word for hammer? Oh, I can't make this sentence, I'm a failure, right? You can swap these things out and still say what you want to say by talking around them pretty easily. Instead of, you don't have to say hardware store. You can just be like, 가게. Say you went to the store. They don't care. They don't really care. You can say the word hardware store. Just say you went to the store. 가게. Works fine. You don't know the word for hammer? You can use your body language if you're talking with someone. 집 만들 때 이렇게 딱딱하는, or if you don't even know the word, 이렇게 뚝딱뚝딱 하는, say you don't know that word. 이렇게 하는, just cut it out. Just use 하다 in place of any verb. 이렇게 하는 도구. You don't know the word for tool, 도구? 이렇게 하는 것, or call. Thing. 있잖아요. You can get the point across with like very, very, very little vocab. So people can sound fluent when they speak Korean, even if their vocab is down here, because they are good at, they're used to doing that and talking around. Like, sure, if you know the vocab, you're like, 망치를 샀잖아요. Good, you got the word. I went to the hardware store, I bought a hammer. Cool, you can say it directly when you're more advanced. But for right now, 가게 가서 집 만들 때 이렇게 하는 도구를 샀어요. 이 도구 뭐라고 하죠? You can even just say, what is this tool called? Or just 이거 뭐라고 하죠? What is this called? Like, they're going to help you out. And everyone has brain farts, like in your own language. Today I couldn't remember a word. I was like, clean, what was it? I can't even remember the word that I couldn't remember the word for. But I was talking to my kid, I'm asking him to bring me a thing that was downstairs. I'm like, oh, it's on top of the table. The thing I got. Like, it doesn't matter. We have brain farts in English, and you can do that same sort of thing in Korean. But yeah, talking around's totally fine. And if you do it confidently, you still sound fluent. But when you start saying like, that's when people can tell you don't know the word. When you talk around it, no one's going to care if you don't know the word, but it'll stand out when you're every word you're stopping and like, oh, what's the word for that? Oh, what's the word for that? Oh, what's the word for that grammar? Oh, how do I express this? And that's not really what you want to be doing because that's just too much stress. It's not fun. Or LV gives a good suggestion. Just use the English word. Pronounce it like Korean. Oh, 그 해모 샀어요. Sure. You'll sound like you're showing off a bit, like you're mixing in English into Korean kind of has that type of feel to it. But who cares? You can do it. Just say 해모. I bought a hammer. 해모 샀어요. Good. Yeah, they do have a version of thingy, but I would not use it. There's a dialect word. But it has the same meaning as the family jewels. Oh, for this lesson we're doing today, you want to know how to make adjectives. If you know how to make adjectives in all tenses, you're good for today. If you don't, then you might have trouble making this form yourself. I'll still explain how it works, but you won't be as fast at doing it if you haven't learned that yet. This word, now in dialect, this is a regular word. But in normal Korean, it can have the meaning of, like when you don't know what to call it, it also can imply that I don't want to say it. 거시기. Now, it's also used in the verb 거시기 하다. It's like, it's kind of iffy. But yeah, that would be a word you can use. Or just thing. You don't have to call it a whatchamacallit. You just say a thing. And that applies to whatever you're talking about. And if you want to be more specific, just be like, oh, what this thing, 뭐라고 하는지 깜빡했어요. I totally forgot what I have to call it. I had a brain fart. I can't remember. 깜빡하다 is like temporarily forget. 뭐라고 하는지 까먹었어요. I just totally forgot what I should say. Or 잊었어요. 잊어먹었어요. Whatever you want to say. There are several ways to say forgot. I actually have a class, the Korean FAQ episode about that. But yeah, talk around it. It's fine. Makes you sound more fluent. Lexica said, I started taking lessons with a tutor. Awesome. Yeah, and a lot of the questions people have about learning Korean can be resolved by making a Korean friend or getting a Korean tutor and speaking in Korean. Like, I'm here to help you answer questions, explain things, make things easier to understand. But at the same time, the secret to learning Korean, getting better at speaking, listening, all that, is by making Korean friends and having an excuse to use it on a regular basis. Because you really need to be doing it on a regular basis, not just every once in a while. 못 뛰는 거 뭐랄까요? Yeah, sure. You can do whatever you want. Anything. Like, 뭐라고 하지? 이거 있잖아. 이 도구 뭐라고 하지? Like, it's fine. It sounds like you had a brain fart in your own language. They're not going to think, oh, this foreigner doesn't know the word for hammer. They're going to think, oh, this foreigner forgot the word for hammer. Ha ha ha. I sometimes do that too. They're not going to care. So yeah, don't worry about it too much. But I recommend talking around stuff. There are always going to be things you can't directly describe. Like, what if someone gave you a book? Like, what if you're going to the hospital and you're like translating for someone? Or like you're going to you're translating some really complicated political issue or, medical thing. Like, how are you going to talk about that? Like, oh, this person we found out they have a brain cancer or something like that. How would you describe that if you don't know the word for brain or cancer or discovered or biopsy or anything like that? You would just say, oh, 머리에 문제가 있대요. They said they have a problem in their head. Like, it's fine. No one's going to care. But if you go, brain, like, that's when it sounds like you're not fluent anymore. Versus, 머리에 무슨 문제가 있대요. Like, 머리 안에 문제가 있대. There's a problem inside of their head. Like, I don't know. You can think of how you want to express it yourself, but talking around it is like the easiest way to just keep a conversation going. And then later they'll say, oh, 뭔지는 아세요? Like, do you know what it is? Is it 혹시 암인가요? And then you learn right there, oh, that must be the word for cancer. Oh, 암이 아니래요. They say, oh, that's not cancer. Like, you learn by doing that sort of stuff. Yeah, so that's how you do it. That's how you do it. That's the secret. That's what all of us non-native Korean speakers are doing secretly. I mean, it's not a secret, I'm telling you, but that's what we're all doing. We're just speaking the best that we can with what we know. And you can start doing that from the intermediate level once you have a basic grasp of grammar and vocab, and you get better at it in advanced. And then when you really want to go from like advanced to near native, that's when you fill in all the blanks. That's when you actually go and you learn the words for hammer. You learn the words for, brain. And you actually learn, although those aren't advanced words, but just for example, you learn the words for everything that you were missing before, all the expressions in grammar form. And then you start filling those in so you no longer have to talk around. But you don't need to wait until you get there before you can start speaking. Okay, we'll start the class in just 1 minute. 65 words will not work in Korean, though. I'm sure it's cool in other languages, but there aren't really like things that apply across the board with different types of languages. But I'm sure there are cool things that can apply across for like Romance languages or Germanic languages like that. But yeah, not in Korean. That would not work, especially since you have to conjugate adjectives and conjugate it. Just to use a noun, you need to do conjugation for whatever verb you're talking about. I did a study once, and we'll get started with the lesson. I did a study once where I analyzed a bunch of Korean speaking, and over 95% of the words used all fell in under 3,000 words. And I've heard that also, they've done that study actually like officially for English, and I think it was Dutch study. Yeah, but anyway, they did analyze other languages and found about the same thing. And then I did a different, not a very scientific study because I just did it myself, but it was about the same. About under 3,000 words was well over 95% of any general conversation. So you don't need that many words. And if you learn just 10 words a day, that's 1 year to get all of those. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to be fully conversational in a year, but the vocab, as far as just vocab's concerned, it's not that big of a deal. You can do a lot with very little. Topic 1 and 2, around 3,500. Yeah. And like native speakers will know, say 10,000 to 15,000 or maybe 20,000 words if they're like, highly educated. Koreans aren't using those words though. You're going to use maybe, I think it's around 6,000-7,000 is probably more than enough for like any conversation about any topic. And then on top of that 6,000-7,000-ish for like really high level, full fluent Korean is going to be an extra few hundred for whatever topic you're talking about. So whatever thing you're specially, like if for me, I might be interested in cameras. So I can use that 6,000-7,000 vocabulary range to talk about everything, but then I would still need an extra maybe 100 or 200 words for like specific things. Like, oh, I want to say like, my wide angle lens, 광각 렌즈, or I want to talk about my 조리개, the aperture or 노출 exposure, or, different things like that. You need a set of words for the topic that aren't going to be within that 6 or 7 or so thousand, but those you just learn separately. Okay. We're going to learn a form that can be used in several tenses. And first of all, the way it works is you take a verb stem and you'll change it into the future tense adjective form, which works like this. You'll attach either or a lir. Now, there are some exceptions to that because when you make a future tense adjective, some verbs will have different rules. Like verbs that end with the piup, usually we'll remove it and attach oo. So then to this, you attach this, and then you finish it like that. So there are some specific rules to that. I have a separate video about it. I actually have a cheat sheet about it. Changing verbs into adjectives. There are 2 cheat sheets, 100% free for descriptive verbs and one for action verbs. So get that. But anyway, you change a verb into the future tense. You change a verb into a future tense adjective, and then you attach 걸, followed by 요 if you're being polite. For example, Take the verb 하다. Get the stem. Now you attach a lir because it ends in a vowel. 할, 걸, 요. That's it. Let's take the verb 먹다, to eat. 먹을, because it ends in a consonant. 걸, 요. That's it. Pretty easy. Now, because of this here, this lir followed by 걸 in every usage, because of that, due to sound change rules, although it's always spelled as 걸, it actually is always pronounced in this form as 걸, with a double consonant there. So instead of saying 할 걸요, you say 할 걸, 할 걸요, 먹을 걸요, like that. So what is this form? Well, I've thought about it a lot, and I've been able to boil it down to its most pure essence. The basic way this form gets explained, and I've explained it before, is that it's used for softly contradicting what someone else has said. And that's correct. This form is used for softly, so not rudely or bluntly, but softly contradicting what someone else has said. So it's kind of like saying, actually, or probably, you're saying, no, you're wrong. I'm going to say something that's actually correct, but I don't want you to take it in a bad way. So I'm going to say it in a soft and polite way. That's what this form is used for doing. However, at its core, it's actually even simpler than that. It's actually just used, at its core, for emphasizing the speaker's opinion in a soft way. So it's kind of like saying, instead of, I think, it's more like saying, I think, I think. Sometimes we do that where we extend the sound when we're not sure. Instead of saying, I think, right? It does that. It's like saying think with a bit of a raised tone. I think, right? It doesn't sound like you're saying they're wrong. It just sounds like you're expressing your opinion. So if someone says, oh, pineapples are horrible on pizza, but you actually like Hawaiian pizza, you're going to say, well, I think it's not bad. You're not saying like, you're wrong, it's not bad. You're saying, it's just what I think. I think it's not that bad, is what you're saying. So it's a soft way of disagreeing. It's a soft way of contradicting, but at its core, it's really just for emphasizing that this is the speaker's opinion. So it's kind of like saying, well, I think. So you can actually translate it as think, I think anyway, but usually it's not translated that way. Oh, Lexica, thank you. Oh, and I gotta erase this. This was from last week. Our sponsors from last week. Thank you very much. Lexica. Right before class, minute 7 saw a video about the annual Hanbok Expo and now really want to go to the next one. That would have been cool. I actually didn't know there was a Hanbok Expo in August. If I was ever in Korea during this month, I would probably go to that. That sounds really cool. But in August, that's going to be hot. Hopefully it's indoors with air conditioning. I couldn't imagine doing a expo and being outdoors wearing hanbok. Okay. So the nunde can softly contradict, but the way it does it is different, because the way that the te form could contradict is by saying, I think it is. It's kind of inviting the other person to give their opinion on it. So that's how it could be used for it. But it's not essentially for saying, well, actually, it's more for saying, it's okay. It's okay. What do you think? Kind of like that. So again, it's not really for contradicting the other person, but it could be used in that case. It's more of just presenting something to the speaker and asking kind of what they think. And I have that's also in the cheat sheet as well as one of the uses for te form. So because of that, this is most often used to make an assumption or like a guess that is softly contradicting what someone else has said. So this again will most often be about someone or something else, not about the speaker. Now you could, but most of the time it's going to be talking about something else. You're not going to say, well, I think something about yourself. Most of the time it's going to be, I think, about someone else, right? Or something else. So keep that in mind. It's not a rule. It just tends to get used that way most often. So you can translate this in a few ways. Actually, and probably are, I think, two of the best ways you can translate this in most situations, because it's used for like saying, well, actually, and then you present your opinion, or probably that, it's probably okay. You're not saying, I think it is okay, that's my opinion, but you're like, I think, which is like saying, I probably is. It's like saying it probably or actually is, like that, with a raised tone. Or we put it all together to kind of get the feeling that this form has. It's kind of like, well, hey, I think, or, well, I think, gosh, I think. It's kind of like that. Again, you are emphasizing that it's just your opinion, and it's a soft way of expressing your opinion. So at its core, it's like saying, I think. Okay. However, again, although this is most often taught as a way to contradict what the other person has said, it doesn't have to be you're contradicting them. It can simply be you're just expressing your thought. You're just expressing your opinion. So keep that in mind. It doesn't have to be saying like, you're wrong, I'm thinking this. Because again, at its core, it's really just saying like, I think. At least I think. Okay, so how is this form used? Well, when you have a verb that ends with kol or kolyu, when you're using it in this way, and I say this way because there is another form we'll talk about, this is used with a rising intonation on the final syllable. So if you're using kol, like hada, 할걸, or 할걸요, you have to add a rising intonation on the final syllable in that verb. So 할걸, 할걸요. Again, only the final syllable, not 할걸요 like that. 할걸, 할걸요, 할걸요, like that. So it's the final syllable that gets a rising intonation, as if it's a question. Because again, it's a very soft way of expressing your opinion. You're not saying I think, but you're saying, I think, kind of like upspeak, where some people talk like this, even when they're not asking a question, but they're doing this anyway. Do you know what I'm talking about? I totally know what I'm talking about. Some people do this in California, especially. I grew up in LA, and I've heard a lot of people talk like this. It's kind of annoying, but some people do it. You know what I'm talking about? That's kind of what it is. You have to have a rising intonation to show that it's just your opinion. And there's one more thing. What if I just did a whole class? What if I just did like a whole class where I'm talking with like LA style speaking and everything? Okay, like I guess we could like start the class now. Maybe learn some stuff about Korean, or maybe not. Like, I don't know. What if I just do the whole class like that? Or like surfer English, like, yeah, this is like really cool form. We're gonna like talk about it today. I think it's like core. I think like, like kind of like a girl, but like with a different pronunciation. I don't know. I could see it. I could see it getting lots of views. Okay. The other thing you need to know about this form is that it's only for informal speech. You're not going to be using this in a essay, You're not going to be using this in formal speech. It is by nature a spoken only informal form. Because again, you're like expressing just your soft opinion and you're downplaying it. You're not even sure about it. You're just like, I think, like that. So because of that, don't use this on your official essays or tests or anything like that. Okay, now we've learned all of the basics about this form, but there's still a little bit more we have to talk about. But in the meantime, before we get to there, let's just do a few example sentences. Yeah, Valley Girl. I can't do a good Valley Girl, but my sister can. Yeah, Jonesy's like, gag me with a spoon. Oh my God. I can't really do a good Valley Girl. My sister can. Because she grew up she had some friends who talked exactly like that. It was great. Yeah, rad. Like Fast Times. Yeah. Totally. Okay. So, I don't know what I'm saying. 괜찮을걸요? 괜찮을걸요? Hear that intonation rise? 괜찮을걸요? Like, should be okay. I think it'll be okay. Again, I don't really want to translate this as I think, because I think it'll get a bit confusing with the other forms that Korean has for saying I think. Because it doesn't really mean I'm expressing my opinion here. It's more like, it should be okay, is what you're saying. So you can translate it as nothing, or if you have to say something, probably or actually. It'll probably be okay. 괜찮을걸요? So someone says, oh, I don't know if we'll have time. I don't know if we can do it. 괜찮을걸요? Should be okay. 괜찮을걸요? Should be okay. Like that. 계곡 소녀. Valley Girl. Yeah, you should like totally do that. How many people would show up to a class if I was like talking like this for the whole thing? And we can just like learn some Korean or like not. Like it doesn't really matter, right? We could like, maybe like do some sound change rules or like not, Okay, so 별로 is a negative adverb, so you're gonna have to use it with a negative verb. 별로, not very. In this case, 춥다, to be cold. 안 추울걸요? So it's not gonna be that cold. It's probably not gonna be that cold. 별로 안 추울걸요? It's not gonna be that cold. Someone's like, hey, should I wear my coat today? 별로 안 추울걸요? No, I actually don't think it's gonna be that cold. 별로 안 추울걸요? Why is that making me think of Beavis and Butthead? It's not quite there. It's more like Bill and Ted, I think would be closer. Beavis is like more extreme version of that. For the record, I'm not really a fan of Beavis and Butthead. I watched it a bit as a kid because it was on TV a lot. No, that's more like, like that's like the worst version of that way of speaking. I feel like gross doing it because I hated that show growing up. But anyway. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you like it, nothing against you. The guy who made it, Judd, I can't remember his name, is a really cool, like hilarious guy, and he's made a lot of other funny stuff. Office Space, of course. But I just didn't like. And King of the Hill, I actually kind of enjoy some of the King of the Hill. I just didn't like for whatever reason. I just didn't like Beavis and Butthead. It just seemed like more, I don't know, just seemed more like mean, I guess. Okay. 이게, so 이것이, this, 더, more, 맛있다, to be delicious, to taste good. 맛있을걸요? So 이게 더 맛있을걸요? I think this will probably taste better. So actually this should taste better. 이게 더 맛있을걸요? So you're going to use this anytime you want to express that, I think, sort of feeling. Thank you. I knew it was like a JU something. Mike Judge. Yeah, seems like a great guy. Tons of funny stuff. I just don't like Beavis and Butthead. I do really like Office Space. Idiocracy is really funny also. And yeah, King of the Hill I think is pretty, you know, warm-hearted, fun show for what I've seen. But, whatever it is, Beavis and Butthead, like, no, I don't want that. Get that away. Okay, 이게 더 맛있을걸요? So I think this will taste better. 내일은, so tomorrow, 날씨, the weather, 날씨가 좋다, to be good. So tomorrow, 좋을걸요? Tomorrow should be probably good weather. It should probably be good weather tomorrow. 내일은 날씨가 좋을걸요? Again, 좋을걸요? The intonation rises only on that last syllable. 내일은 날씨가 좋을걸요? 내일은 날씨가 좋을걸요? So the weather should be good tomorrow. Again, it's like you're expressing your opinion, and it could be usually contrary to what someone else said. If they said, oh, you know, I heard it's going to rain. 내일은 날씨가 좋을걸요? I actually think it should be fine tomorrow. You're not saying you're wrong, or, well, I think the weather will be nice tomorrow. You're not saying that. It's really just like, it should be fine tomorrow. Actually, I think it'll be okay tomorrow. It has that feeling, so you're softly contradicting them. 지금도, now also, even now. 늦다, to be late. 늦지 않다, to not be late. 늦지 않았어요. We're not late. Even now, we're not late. Now, 늦다 is used in the past tense, but it doesn't have to be this verb. For any verb, you can actually use it with the past tense, future tense stem. How does that work? 늦지 않았어요. Let's just go up to here. 지금도 늦지 않았어요. Even now, 늦지 않았어요. We're not late. So again, 늦다 is used in the past tense. So we're not late yet. Even now, we're still not late. 않았을걸요. Attaching this form, again, probably. Yeah, we're probably not late yet. So even if you're using a past tense verb, you're going to say this form, which uses the future tense adjective form. Why? Because the technical reason, and this is technical, is because the future tense in Korean is actually just used for your expectations, for your predictions, for your guesses. So you're not really saying it will necessarily, you're saying should be, probably. So it's more of that assumption feeling is what the future tense ending actually gives in Korean. Now you can actually say future tense in Korean. But when you're using it with most forms, that's the feeling that it gives. So it's not saying will have not been late, literally, as much as it's saying we're not late. I think, probably, actually, like that. 지금도 늦지 않았을걸요. 지금도, but we have to add that intonation. 지금도 늦지 않았을걸요. 지금도 늦지 않았을걸요. No, I don't think we're late yet, even now. Like, we're probably still not late, is what you're saying. So again, it's future tense technically, but you can think of it as more like, well, must have, like, would have, like that sort of past tense. Would have, I think, not been late, even now. So most lessons stop here because most of the time, well, I'll say this again. Most lessons you'll find about this form stop here because most of the time when you're using this form, that's how it works. You take the verb, make it into a future tense adjective stem, make it into a future tense adjective, and then attach 걸 or 걸요, and you're done because you're making an assumption about something. Like it should be, it would be, it must be. That's why you use the future tense with it, because you're saying like a prediction. Yeah, it'll be like that. It will be is what you're saying. Even if it's about something in the past, you're saying, oh, I'm certain it would be that that happened, or I'm certain it would be that, this is or will be. But technically, you also can see this with the present tense and the past tense. So let's take a look at those now. Just like before, we're going to be attaching 걸요, but now we're going to start with a present tense adjective. So what is that? Well, depending on whether you're using a action verb or a descriptive verb, this will be a little bit different. For an action verb, to change it into an adjective, you're going to be taking the stem and attaching 는. And then there are some other exceptions, like if it ends with the lir, you remove that first and then you attach 는. But for a descriptive verb, this will be either attaching 은 or a nian, whether it ends with a consonant or a vowel. And if this seems a bit confusing, I have a cheat sheet again about how to make adjectives. There are two, one for action verbs, one for descriptive verbs. They're very simple in that they all work in the same way, but there are exceptions that, again, they all work in the same way, but there are exceptions you have to learn. So get that. If you already know how to make adjectives like that, though, this is all you're doing. You're just making a present tense adjective like normal. So 이다, to be, is a descriptive verb. So you get in. You're done. 하다, to do. 하는. 가다, to go. 가는. 먹다, to eat. 먹는. 먹는. What's another descriptive verb? 춥다. You do the exact same thing as before, but instead of attaching the future tense, now you get 추우는, and you're done. So you just make a descriptive verb or action verb adjective like usual in the present tense. And once you have an adjective, you just attach 걸요, just like before. So again, what you're saying is the same thing at its core. You're still expressing your thought, but now you're doing it with the present tense. So let's rewind a little bit. The future tense is kind of like saying, it should be, it will be, I think, it would, it must be. And it's normally used like that in Korean anyway. Like if you say, oh, 맛있겠다, you're not saying it will be delicious. You're saying it must be delicious, right? Oh man, that's got to be good. Like that. Oh, 힘들었겠네. Not that was difficult, but that must have been difficult. That must have been really hard for you. 정말 힘들었겠다. And if you're using the future tense 것 form, like what we were just using, 재밌을 것 같아요. 재밌을 거예요. It will be fun, literally, but it's more like that would be fun. That must be fun, is kind of like what you're saying. So the future tense form normally in Korean isn't just used for saying something will be, but it's used for saying should be, would be, must be, yeah, I'm sure. Like that sort of feeling. You're making your prediction or your assumption about something. And that's why most of the time when you use this form, it's going to be using just the future tense. Because like you're saying, 괜찮을걸요? Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. It'll be. 별로 안 추울걸요? I'm sure it's not going to be too cold. I'm sure that this will taste better. I'm sure that the weather will be good tomorrow. I'm sure that we're not going to be late. Again, you're making an assumption. And most of the time when you use this form, you're going to be using it with the future tense like that. But if you're saying it with the present tense, then what do you get? Why would you ever want to use it with the present tense? Oh wait, that's past tense. It's This one should go below. Hold on, let me move this down. Okay. 바깥 means the outside. Basically, in this usage, it's the same as saying 밖 for outside. 바깥보다. So more than the outside, 실내. 실내 is indoors. 실내가 더. So the inside is more. What? 춥다. Cold. 추운 걸요? 추운. Not 추울, like before. If you're saying 추울 걸요, that's saying, I think that the inside would actually be colder than the outside. That's kind of like saying, therefore I suggest that we stay outside because the inside is gonna be, future, I assume it's gonna be colder than going outside. But if you're saying present tense, it is colder. You're no longer making a prediction, right? You're no longer making a guess or an assumption necessarily. You're just making an observation about something that currently is. So what does that mean? Well, why would you say it's going to be colder outside with the future tense versus it is colder, inside? Why would you say it's going to be colder inside than outside versus saying it is colder inside than outside? Again, you're making an observation. You don't really need to do that if the other person already knows it, right? Like if you are inside of a cold building and you say, man, it's even colder in here than it is outside. Why would you want to use this form? Why would you say, I think it's colder here than it is outside? Like, why would you ever say that? Think about that realistically. Why would you say something so obvious? Like, you obviously know it. Your friend you're with in the room knows it. So when might you still say something like this? You're making an observation again. Something is. You're not predicting, in which case it's okay to say something that might not be obvious. But this, you already know. It is. So it is actually colder in here than it is outside. Hold on. It's colder in here, I think, than it is outside. This is the feeling that this form has when you use it in the present tense. Because it's obvious. Like, you're not saying, I think it would be. You're saying, I think it is. So you're making an observation about something. It's most often just used for expressing some sort of surprise. Like, hey, gosh, I think it's colder in here than it is outside. Do you get it? Do you get this meaning? Do you get the feeling? It's the same form, but now that we're using it in the present tense, it's no longer making like a guess about what you think it's going to be. It's not making like a guess or an assumption about something you think it will be. Now we're just making a soft expression of our opinion. But because we're doing that about the present, we're making an observation, it comes across sounding more as like surprise. Like, hey, gosh, well, it's colder here inside than it is outside. That's the form. The same form has a different usage and meaning because of that nuance difference. So you still will see it used in the present tense sometimes, but not as much as you'll see it used in the future tense. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to everyone? I hope everyone understands this. I spent a lot of time thinking about this stuff to make it match what we're used to in English, at least, to kind of justify why you might want to use it in Korean, because it doesn't really make sense if you look at it. But if you think about it that way, it's for making observations. So it's like a surprise. Like, hey, wow, I think it's colder in here than it is outside. Like, duh. But the reason you're expressing that is because you're surprised at it. And if you just translate it as actually, you also would get to the same spot. It's actually colder in here than it is outside. But the reason why you might do that is because you're surprised. I don't have a lot of time for example sentences because I don't want to make the lesson too long, but I'll do one more, but I do have a worksheet with 20 example sentences using 걸. Get the worksheet, it's on my Patreon page. 20 sentences, which is way more than we could go over in a class. It's like double what we're doing today. Okay. If you were to say 내일 비가, if you were to say like 내일 비가 올걸, it's gonna rain tomorrow, I think. It sounds like I think it's gonna rain tomorrow, right? But now we're not saying with the future tense. Now we're saying it with the present tense. 오는 걸요. 하지만, but 지금은, right now, 비가 오는 걸요. It's raining now. But it's raining now. Again, you're not saying, actually, it is raining now, or probably it is raining now, because you're not making a prediction about something. Again, at its core, this form is used for softly expressing the speaker's opinion. But when you do that about something that you're observing in the present tense, like, hey, it's raining now. Why would you do that? It's to show you're surprised. It's like, hey, it's raining now. Like that. Well, gosh, golly darn it, it's raining now. It's kind of like that. So you're not necessarily using it to say, like, man, I think it's going to be raining now. It should probably be raining, I think. You're not using it for that. Again, you're going back to its core meaning. But now it's raining. Like that. You're expressing your opinion softly, like, duh, it's raining. They're getting hit by the rain the same as you. But it sounds like you're surprised at it because you're like, well, I think it's raining right now. Like that. And the only reason you would do that is if you're surprised a bit. So it expresses that sort of surprise. Yeah, I'll do this one. Okay. I didn't want to do this one first, but now I'll do it. Okay. 기대하다 is to expect or just to look forward to. 기대하지 않다, to not expect. In this case, 기대하지 않은 답. 답 is an answer. 않은 is the past tense. So an answer that I didn't expect. 이에요 basically is what you're saying here. It is an answer I didn't expect. 인 걸. So this is 이다, to be, in an adjective form in the present tense, which is just 인 걸. Or you could say 걸요. 기대하지 않은 답인 걸. 기대하지 않은 답인 걸. Now that's an answer I didn't expect. Again, you're making an observation. It's present tense. You're not saying 일걸? That's going to be an answer I didn't expect. Oh man, I'm sure I'm not going to expect that. You're not saying something like that. You're not making a prediction or an assumption about something. You're just observing. It is. But you're still saying, man, I sure think that's an answer I didn't expect, is what you're saying literally. But you can translate as more like, man, gosh, well, that's an answer I didn't expect. And you get that same nuance that you have in English, which feels very natural, translated into Korean. So why would you want to use 걸 in Korean? Because it gives you this sort of nuance that you can't get by just literally translating 기대하지 않은 답이에요 or 답이네요. You could say, 기대하지 않은 답이네요. Well, that is an answer I did not expect. Sure, but this gives you a different nuance. Well, that's an answer I didn't expect. These are two sentences with the exact same meaning in English, but completely different nuances, right? They feel different to you. In Korean, you can do the same thing. You could express the same thing multiple ways with different nuance, to give it that feeling. So if you want to have the feeling of like surprise, man, well, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that answer. Then use 걸, because that's exactly what it gives you. 기대하지 않은 답인 걸. 기대하지 않은 답인 걸? Oh, I didn't expect that. Like that. Oh yeah, there's no relation with 기다리다. 기다리다 is a pure Korean word. 기대하다 is from Hanja. Is it like outwardly expressing surprise? Nope. It's, again, it's for your opinion. I mean, sure, outwardly like you're speaking, but it doesn't, again, at its core, you're not expressing surprise. At its core, you're not saying anything surprise. That comes from the nuance of the form. At its core, you're just expressing your thoughts. And we'll talk about that when I get to the advanced section of this lesson. But really, it's just for your thoughts. Okay. So next we have the past tense. And the way the past tense works is different than either the future tense or the present tense, because the past tense doesn't use what you might think it uses. Although many Korean native speakers do think it does, and it gets misused. I'll talk about that in a second. You actually use the past tense verb stem. Now, what is the past tense verb stem? When you conjugate a verb normally to the yo form, and you chop off the yo, and you attach this, and then you attach like all yo, right, to make the past tense. Well, if you chop this off, and you're just left with this part, that's the past tense verb stem, is everything up until this part at the bottom. So, for example, 하다, normally you get hey, yo, right? But if you want to make the past tense, and you should have already done this many times, you get 했어요, right? Well, as soon as you get to this part, when you attach this, that's it. That's the stem. Now we attach 는, 걸, 요. No spaces. 했는 걸, 요. So this doesn't work the way you might think it does. And a lot of Koreans actually feel the same way. And you will see another version of this where Koreans will use the past tense adjective form instead. The reason is because for the regular form, we use the future tense adjective form, and for the present tense, we use the present tense adjective form. So the past tense should use the past tense. It doesn't. It uses the past tense stem. But if you use the past tense adjective form, that's the one that ends with this. Always. Like 하다 becomes 한. 먹다 becomes 먹은. Like that. That's a different form. So you might see people say 한 걸요. But what they're supposed to say is, again, this is if they're using it with an action verb, 했는. And although you will more often see it used correctly, a good portion of the time I see it misused with just the past tense adjective form. It's fine, but I want you to know which one's correct so that you're not confused, because you will see people use it the other way. I want you to know that you're not crazy. You're doing it correctly. They are crazy. It's not you. Everyone else in the world is crazy except you. Just always tell yourself that. So that's how you make it. So what is this form? Well, again, we get the verb stem in the past tense, and you attach 는 걸. So why would you use the past tense? Let's do. Now, I'm going to be straight up with you. The usage of the 걸 form outside of the future tense form is more in the advanced level. The basic form is definitely intermediate, but when you start going into present tense and past tense, it kind of crosses a little bit more advanced because it's not as common and it requires more specific cases. But let's look at an example sentence. So if you feel like it's getting a little difficult, you're not dumb or anything like that. You're totally fine. It's just a little bit a level higher than the regular core form, which is why I think most lessons stop after the regular form, including my original lessons. They just stop there because that's 99% of the time you're just going to use 97% of the time you're just going to use it with that. I'll use that. Let's see. 아무도 is nobody. So 아무도 has to be used with a negative verb because it's a negative form. So 아무 is no one, 아무도 not anyone, 못했어요. In this case, it's going to be 못했는 걸요. But let's just say it's 못했어요. So nobody could, 못하다, to be unable to. 예상하다 is to predict or expect. In this case, either way, expect or predict. So nobody, let's just say it's 못했어요. 아무도 예상하지 못했어요. Nobody predicted it. Nobody expected it. Like that. 예상하지 못했는 걸요. So you're making, again, an observation based on the past. So I think nobody was able to expect it. I think, again, you're not literally saying I think, but you're saying nobody could have expected that. Again, you're making an observation on it. You're making an observation about it. You're not saying, I'm sure, 아무도 예상하지 못할걸요? You're not saying, I'm sure no one will expect it. You're not saying, 아무도 예상하지 못하는 걸요? Nobody is able to expect it. Wow, nobody is expecting this. You're not saying that. You're saying nobody could. Nobody could expect it. I think, man, nobody could have expected this. So again, you're making an observation. 아무도 예상하지 못했는 걸요? So again, it's your opinion that no one could have expected it. So it's used for saying your thoughts, but not saying them in a strong way. Yeah, nobody could have expected this. Like that. Instead of, nobody expected this. The end. You're like, I think nobody could have expected this. Oh man, yeah, nobody could have expected this. Wow. Kind of like that. You're making your observation, your thought. Again, now it's on a past thing, a past event in this sentence. But let's do another example. Again, this form is one where I think you really need a lot of examples. I highly recommend getting the worksheet for this. It's on Patreon. It's only $1. You get all of my worksheets I've ever done. They're like hundreds. I think there actually are like over 200 of them. I don't want to do this sentence. Let's do this one. Okay. 그 빵은, so that bread, 아침에, in the morning, 다, completely or all, 팔리다 is to sell. In this case, 다 팔리다, it all sold. That's like it's sold out. 다 팔려는 걸요? 그 빵은 아침에 다 팔려는 걸요? So I think that bread actually all sold out in the morning. So I think that bread actually all sold out in the morning is what you're saying. I added the actually there just to kind of give the nuance. But you're making an observation. Oh, I think that bread all sold out in the morning is what you're saying. You're not saying like, hey, you're dumb for asking me about the bread. Like, did you really ask about that bread? It all sold out in the morning. You're not saying that. You're like saying, I think that all sold out in the morning. Even if it's clearly all sold out and there's a sold out sign, you can still say, 아침에 다 팔려는 걸요? I think it all sold out in the morning. Like that. You're not saying it is sold out. You're not saying, I think it is sold out, like you're not sure. You're like, actually, that bread all sold out in the morning. You're making a soft expression. You're expressing your thoughts softly, and making an observation about something that already happened in the past, which is less common than just using the regular future tense form for making a guess about something in the future, but you will see it in the past as well. And again, there are a lot more sentences in the worksheet on my Patreon page, but you have to join Patreon to see that. I highly recommend getting that, the extra 20 sentences. It'll really help. Okay. But we're not done. Okay. So that's the regular form 걸 요. But there's another form 걸. There are actually a few other things you might see 걸 used for, but the other form for 걸 is a different form. It looks like this. So this is another form of 걸 that is used for a different purpose. And the way it works is with only action verbs. You take an action verb stem and you change it into, again, just like before, the future tense adjective form, which will be by attaching 을 or a lir, followed by 걸. Exactly like before. However, instead of 걸 or 걸요, you have either 걸 in casual speech or 걸, and then you conjugate the verb 그랬다. Now, technically, 그랬다 comes from a verb, 그러다, which means to do something, to do like that. And this is already conjugated into the past tense as 그랬다, into the plain form. So you conjugate this however you'd like. If you're using regular 요 form, this will become 그랬어요. Or maybe you could do 그랬어. If you want to be casual, 그랬어요, 그랬네요. 그랬나? Was it? When you're asking yourself. You have a lot of options, but you conjugate this however you'd like, optionally. Or again, if you don't use it, it's only 걸 and it's casual. But you can use 걸 그랬어 and it's still casual. It just adds it on. It's just optional. So you can use it or not. And this form is a different meaning. It does not mean that you're expressing your thoughts. What it means is that you are expressing regret. Most of the time it's for expressing regret. And what it is it doesn't always get used for regret, but most of the time it's used for expressing regret. And it means I should have. I should have, again, action, because it's used with action verbs. So I should have done something. Oh, I should have gone there. I should have asked. And the intonation is also different. This will end with a regular falling intonation like a regular sentence, not with a rising intonation. Because again, this one is not for expressing your thoughts. So you're not saying, I think, actually it is, maybe. You're not doing that. This one is saying, oh, I should have. So it'll always just end like a normal sentence. You don't need any special intonation. Don't add a rising intonation because again, you're not asking the listener, you're not expressing to the listener that you're like thinking it, you're not sure, you're just saying something. So let's do some examples. Oh, there's one more thing I didn't mention. There is also a space before 걸 when you use this form. Whereas with the other form, there is no space. So you'll see a space used before 걸 when you're using this version. if the person is doing spacing correctly. If they're doing it incorrectly, you'll see it attached. It's just a really small thing. 한국어를, so Korean, the Korean language, 더, more, 열심히, harder, 공부하다. So this sentence is going to say, I should have studied Korean harder. 할, 걸, again, 걸. Because of sound change rules, this one also gets pronounced as 걸. 한국어를 더 열심히 공부할 걸 그랬어요. I should have studied Korean harder. 한국어를 더 열심히 공부할 걸 그랬어요. 한국어를 더 열심히 공부할 걸 그랬어요. I should have studied Korean harder. And by expressing that, you're expressing regret. Again, it doesn't have to be regret, but it is, I should have. And most of the time when you're saying I should have, it's going to be used for regret. 한국어를 더 열심히 공부할 걸 그랬어요. 카메라를 가져올 걸. 카메라를 가져올 걸. 카메라를 가져올 걸. I should have brought my camera. Oh man, I didn't think I would need to take a picture. 카메라를 가져올 걸. I should have brought my camera. I wish I brought my camera, but I didn't. I should have brought it. And you could also add, just erase this, try again. You could optionally also add 그랬어요. Same meaning, or 그랬어. Same meaning, just it's up to you. If you want it to be really clear that you're regretting something, like you're expressing this form, then add 그랬다, but it has the same meaning with or without it. You could have also added 그랬어 or 그랬어요. Same thing. It's optional. Adding 그랬다, though, gives you more options for how you want to end the sentence. So you could use 나, or like 네, or whatever you want to use. 읍니다 if you want to be polite. 그랬습니다 if you're being like formal or whatever. 나도 가다, me too, go. So 나도 갈 걸. I should have gone too. 나도 갈 걸 그랬나? Should I have gone too? Again, you're not necessarily expressing regret in this sentence. You're like wondering if it would have been better for you to have also gone. 나도 갈 걸 그랬나? In which case, since you're using it as a question, you would have a rising intonation, but you don't use this as anything else. It's only used, though, for just expressing that sort of feeling like, oh, I should have. And again, I should have. That is the first person. If you wanted to say you should have, you do not use this form. Instead, to talk about the second person and say you should have, we're not going to be talking about the form today, but you can look it up. It's very similar, though. You use 지 그랬다. 지 is the regular form, like you should do something. 하지, 가지, 먹지. And then 그랬다, just like before. So 가지 그랬어. 너도 가지 그랬어. You should have gone too. So 지 그랬다 is for the second person. 걸 그랬다 is for the first person for saying should have done. Okay. Before we finish the lesson, because we actually are getting toward the end of the lesson, there is one more thing I want to teach that you do not need to know. But if you are wondering, is anyone wondering, right, by a show of hands, is anyone wondering where 걸 comes from? If not, really, I don't need to explain it. This is like just a really advanced note if anyone cares. I'm not putting this in the live stream. It's just a bonus for those of you who are here. Because I was curious about it. I looked it up a lot. I found some research papers, and I've been thinking about this a lot. Okay, 3 people. You know what? That's good enough. 3 people is enough. So this part of it might be a bit obvious, but normally if you take 것을, the word 것 for thing, and you attach the object marker in everyday conversation, this will most often shorten to 걸. So you'll hear like 내가 좋아하는 걸, 먹고 싶은 걸, anything like 걸 like that is just 것을 shortened. And you have seen this before, I'm sure. If you're intermediate, you definitely have seen this a lot of times. In this form as well, originally 걸 also comes from 것을. So a thing, in which case it'll be whatever the verb is before 걸, whatever the verb is before 것 plus and then the sentence ends. So what the heck does that mean? Let's take one of our examples. Now, this is not a proper sentence. Don't tell you Billy said this means 괜찮을 걸. This is not. I'm just breaking it apart grammatically so you can see not grammatical. I'm going to write this up in case anyone's like, Billy told me it means closer. No. I'm talking about etymology, the original form of where this would have come from. But it never actually had this form. It didn't have this form, to be clear. It's not like it used to be this, and then it got shortened, and now it's 걸. It never actually had this form. It actually went straight to, it was a spoken-only version that then got written down, but originally the meaning of the form was 걸. So what would this possibly mean? 괜찮을 걸. So, well, if we look up to here, let's just look up to this part. 괜찮을 거. It will be okay. 이요. Let's add 이요 at the end because you can't end a sentence with just a noun. You have to have something at the end. So let's just stick 이요, which means it is, kind of. So it'll be okay, is what you're saying. But you're not finishing your sentence. So this form originally was an incomplete sentence of saying something will be or someone will do. So if you say 괜찮을 걸, literally you would have originally been saying it will be okay, but without saying the end of the sentence. Like when I just said in English, it'll be okay, I think, is what you're implying. So it's used to say I think without saying the expression I think. And originally, this is a shortened version of saying something like this. 괜찮을, like 것을 하다. Now, 하다 you might think is to do, but 하다 actually has a lot more meanings. 생각하다 is what it can also be used to mean. So here, 생각하다, to think. So basically, again, it's like implying I think without saying the actual word I think. So it's just a shortened version of saying it'll be without, and it implies I think. But again, it's a softer version of saying I think. So that word I think is never in the form, but that's where it originally comes from. It never was this full form though. It was, at least as far as what I could find, it would have just been a shortened version of this. Like you might see it in the middle of a sentence, like it kind of leaving the sentence unfinished to just kind of imply it. But yeah, so it slowly evolved into its own separate form. So even though it originally comes from that, just in case you're wondering, it is originally from that. It doesn't, you can't exchange it with that. It won't make any sense now, but that's what it would have been. So hopefully that kind of, hopefully that helps a little bit. But yeah, you will not find a lesson about that because I searched. The best I found was a research paper. But yeah, that should help at least. So at least you can kind of know, like, how does this possibly mean what Billy is saying? Like, where did that meaning come from? And it came from that. Okay, so that is the lesson. Let me take a really quick thumbnail image. I think that's good. Again, the worksheet has 20 example sentences. I highly recommend you get it from my Patreon page. Let me put that in the chat real quick. Patreon. There we go. Definitely get that, because this is just a form where you want more examples. More examples, the merrier. And at least you can understand it. But it does, hopefully at least you got the main form, the first one that I did, because that's going to be the most common one that you're going to see. Again, there is no live class or live stream at all next Sunday. But the next Sunday there will be. So just so you know, Sunday rolls around, there is no class next Sunday, but you will see me again the week after that. The podcast restarts. If you're a Patreon member, you'll get to listen to that this Friday for the first episode of season 2. And I'm going to be recording the second episode later this week. It's really looking forward to the first 2 episodes. Hopefully you like those. So now I'm just going to hang out here for, I'd say 26 minutes exactly. At the bottom of the hour, at the 30-minute mark, I'm going to have to go. I have actually, but until then we'll be doing questions. Right before I started the live stream today, literally like 3 minutes before I clicked live, my entire closet, the shelf in my closet that's holding up a bunch of my, all my batteries, all of my, like a bunch of filming equipment collapsed, because it's a cheap, like the cheapest shelf ever. And it's collapsed before twice. And I fixed it already twice. Now I'm like sick of it. I need to buy a new shelf, because it just completely collapsed on me while I was just opening up a drawer. And yeah, like all the boxes flew all over the closet. So I got to clean that up today. Try to fix that. But yeah, let's hang out for like 25 minutes and take some questions, and then we'll go for today. I have really bad luck. I don't know. I think it's just the closet was just, died. It had enough. It's broken before and I fixed it. It broke again and I fixed it. And today it broke again and I put it back together. It feels sturdy now. But I'm like, no, I don't trust it this time. I'm going to have to do something. I'm going to try to do something different with it this time. So I'll add something. I'm not just going to fix it like normal like I did before. I'm going to try to do something a little bit more reliable, because I need to put stuff on there. I don't want to replace it, because that could be like, I'd have to measure it out exactly and get it custom made. The shelves that are in the closet are the ones that were originally built in with this place. So they're made to match exactly, but I wouldn't be able to build that easily. I don't want to deal with that. I like the ones that they have. So I'll just try to repair them correctly this time. I'll add some more screws into the wall. So Malmahurst says, how are yoyaheta and kolkreta different? So the esoyaheta is expressing needed to have versus should have. Should have is like, yeah, you should have, like that would have been better, expressing your feeling on it. And hesoyaheta or kasoyaheta, whatever yaheta, is saying needed to have. Like definitely you needed to have. It's just a stronger way of expressing should have. So you're not going to hear the yaheta for the past tense as much, just because it's a stronger expression. So you're going to use it. You could use it for yourself. Like, oh man, I really needed to do that, because you're being honest with yourself, but you're not going to tell someone else because it's a bit strong. Like, dude, you needed to have done that. Like, that's what you needed to do. It's kind of like saying, like, that's what needed to be done versus saying, should have, right? And also, kolkreta is only for first person, whereas yaheta can be for anyone. Technically, it doesn't have any restrictions for the what do you call that? The person that you're talking about, first, second, or third person. Ji-Hoon Lee, please, no, please do not answer questions or say I think if you're not sure. That way other people won't get confused. Yes, Helen, of course. Unrelated to today's topic, but are the voices for Korean conversation made simple? Same people that also made the audio for the Sogang? No, they're not. That would be cool though. I don't think they are. The people I hired, actually, I found them on I found them on Fiverr. They were not $5. I wish. No, they're worth much more than that. I found some professional voice actors that I liked on Fiverr and hired them out, on Fiverr, but not the $5 project. I did a full project with them, and yeah, they were great. And I instructed them, like I told them, it's for a Korean learning book, but as far from Korean learning materials as possible, I want you to record these as if you're just talking with your best friend. So we did that, and we did some tests, and I think it turned out really good. I got what I wanted from their voices, because I really did not want what you could already get from any other book, and that's just a Korean lesson where the person speaks clearly and animated and like fake. I was like, no, I want them to hear a real conversation. Obviously, clearly so you can hear it, but not like, well there, how are you doing today? The weather is mighty fine, I say. What say ye? Like, you know what I'm talking about? I didn't want that sort of like strict grammar stuff. I wanted the actual style of speech with, I instructed them like, don't try to pronounce things properly. Say them how you actually say them, regardless of how they're written. And then I told them, give me suggestions for changes if it doesn't feel natural to you. So I adjusted the lesson. This was all like before I even recorded to make the series. Like, yeah, tell me if you say something and you feel like, oh, I didn't like that, just go ahead, say it the way you want to say it, and then send that to me in a note and I'll adjust it. So we had a bunch of that, like, oh, I like the sentence, but I would have said it like this. No problem. Say it like that. And back and forth for a bunch. But yeah. Lowell says, I'm a philologist and I have to dig in deeper and understand. Yeah, I like that stuff too. I'm actually putting some etymology into my first episode of season 2. There's nothing in episode 2 for etymology, but you will see etymology here and there in the second season of the podcast. Voices sound familiar. It might just be like when I found the person, I thought she had a really great voice, but I don't believe she did the Seogang books. But I don't know. I mean, I didn't ask her, did you do the Seogang books? But there are a lot of voice artists or voice actors that I did find on the website. It's possible some of them have done work for different university textbooks, but my guess is no, they're just regular Korean teachers. Did anyone notice the more that they write Hangul, the worse their English handwriting's getting? Yeah. Mine's the opposite, actually. The more Hangul I started writing, the better my English got, because I realized that in order to write Hangul clearly, I had to slow down a bit. And that taught me, like, oh, I also probably need to slow down in English, because my writing is messy. I do not have nice writing. And it doesn't have to do with, oh, my Korean writing is poor. It's just my writing is poor. If you see my Korean, like, this is the best I could possibly write. You see this, my sponsor. That's like my cleanest writing ever. Lexica, I wrote your name very as clearly as I could too, but I do not have nice writing. Like, this is my normal writing that I read easily, but this is my normal writing. This is how I write all day. It's terrible, but I can't, like, my brain doesn't let me slow down because I feel like I'm wasting time if I write slower, because I can get my thoughts out faster. So why slow down? But when I write Korean, I can't do that, or else you won't be able to read it. So in Korean, oops, I wrote that hak. That could be my Korean as well, which is very messy. I'm sure if there's a Korean here, you can read. Like, 이건 내 한글이다. Like, you could read it if you look at it, but it's messy. I can read it, but I can't write this way. It looks horrible. And I know myself, it looks horrible. So when I teach, I do not write like that. I write slowly. And when I speak also, when I speak Korean too, I do not speak like I'm talking in the live streams. I am trying to pronounce every syllable as clearly as I can every time I'm teaching. So if you ever watch me in a video where I'm just talking with someone, like an interview, you'll hear me speak a little more normally. But when I'm teaching, it always is like, 한국어를 더 열심히 공부할 걸 그랬어요. That's not how I talk. That's how I teach. Because you're not going to hear it if I speak it like, 한국어를 더 열심히 공부할 걸 그랬어요. Like, it's not as clear if I say quickly as it is when I say nice and slowly. 나도 갈 걸 그랬나? 나도 갈 걸 그랬나? Would be like asking to yourself. 카메라 가져올 걸. It's a little fast, and it's not as clear for learning. Yeah, it's like doctor script. Yeah, pretty much. In another life, I was a doctor, but I'm kind of like I'm like squeamish a bit for, not for blood, but for like a lot of the work that doctors have to do, like cutting into people and doing stuff like, I think I'm too squeamish for that. It's not the blood that bothers me. It's just like the act of that. Like, oh, I don't know if I would get used to it. Like if I see a doctor like doing, surgery or something, I'd be like, oh, like I don't want to see it. Like I'll cover that body part that they're cutting if I ever watch like a video or something, like a surgery video or something. So I don't know. But yeah, I definitely have doctor handwriting. What happened with Tonton Hada? Did it exist? I'd have to research if it existed, because that would be a question regarding older usage of Korean. My guess is yes, it existed. The reason why you don't use it is just because it's not used. But then why is it not used? Well, because you don't use it. Like there are a lot of things in Korean that are the way they are simply because that's the most common way they got used. Like verb conjugations are the way that Koreans simply used them. That's why they that's why they are that way, because people use them that way. Why is the verb anida exist in the first place? Because it was people saying anida very quickly. Like certain verb conjugations were the common way a verb was pronounced, even though it was technically a incorrect pronunciation. There's a lot of cases of that too. My guess is 천천 하다 is the exact same thing. No one would say 천천 하다 as a verb very much, because you would use 느리다 to be slow. Or that could be the reason. Maybe they had another verb. Maybe 느리다 was more commonly used and they wouldn't use 천천 하다. 천천하게 feels wrong, but it could have been used before. I don't know. I'd have to research it. But I do know how you could find out. If you want to wait for me, I can search it. But if you want to find out yourself, just search 천천하다 in Naver Dictionary. Click on it to go to the full Korean explanation. Scroll down, you'll find a section on old usage. And it's usually not detailed, but they will show a little bit of old usage, or like this word comes from this. And they might give you like an example sentence. If they have a date next to it, that means that's the sentence, that's the example used from a work that was dated at that date. So you can know that back in this year, like back to up as far as back to like 1400s, back in this year it was used like this, and this is how it appeared. So you might find that. And then if you listen to my podcast episode coming up, I also give you terms you can use exactly to search for etymology stuff. So watch that. It'll be out on Friday. Have you seen Hyunwoo's cursive? Is it that bad? I haven't seen it. I'm sure he's nice writing. He definitely has nicer writing than me, I'm sure. I specifically have bad writing in English and Korean. Like my teachers have told me, like, your writing's bad growing up. So, and it's better though now than it was before. I used to just write a ton. Like I had all these handwritten short stories I would do at school, and my writing is better than it used to be, but it's still pretty bad. But at least I'll say now it's more consistent. It's consistently bad, which means it's easier for me to read. My writing is good in the lessons. Thank you. Yeah, that's me writing slowly and clearly. And sometimes you'll see me write something and erase it right after. That's usually because I wasn't thinking and I just, wrote it naturally again and it's too messy. Like that's purely how I would write it in a lesson. It's still fast. I could write it a little slower. Like that's my slowest. It doesn't look much better though. I think it's okay like this. It's actually even a bit better when I go faster. But if I write it like actually, my actual speed would be like that. Like that's my actual speed, which is not good. It looks like porlo or something like that. So it's kind of hard to read. Maybe like that. Yeah, this would be like my regular speed. Like either of these would be my full speed. But it's fine. You can still read it if I do it kind of nice. Like that would be full speed, I guess. So it's could be legible in some cases, but with this word it's really simple. With other words, it can be harder to read. PD가 알려주는 한국어. Like this would be also my full speed. It's not good for teaching with. So I found a good speed that I can make it legible. There's cursive, yes. So cursive, you usually do it. I mean, you don't have to, but I like doing it with a thicker pen because there are parts that you're supposed to push down on, and I'm trying to do that. So PDD would be, this is like in your more cursive style. You don't do it this big though. You would use a much bigger brush to do it like this big. Let me try to do it a little smaller. See if I can make it. See if I can do this a little bit better. And then usually what they'll also do is you'll do a little bit, you'll add style to it so that the vowels will be a little bit longer than or wider, depending on the type of vowel, than the consonants. In which case we would get something like this. You could do like that. It's a little bit stylized like that, but that works. Or, I don't know, some people do like that where they just have the line go really far, maybe like that. You might put this at the really top and get it really exaggerated there. I don't know. Yeah, like I don't have the nicest. I don't even have the nicest. I don't have the nicest writing at all. Period. It's not pretty, and I'm trying. I'm trying to write it kind of unique, how I normally don't write it. But I feel like my nicest writing comes when I'm just trying to do it, cleanly. Like versus if I just do it like really quickly, it looks like that. This is like my real writing. This is like how I'll try to. This is like how I'll try to teach it, but neither of them are that nice. So I don't know. Just don't learn cursive from me. Learn cursive from someone who's good at cursive. At the least, though, my writing is legible, and I'm happy with that. Oh yeah, this origami was made by my kid. That's like soye. Yeah, soye would be really cool. I've never learned it before. I'd like to learn it, but I don't know anyone who does it right now. I wish it went vertically, says Claire Wilson. Interesting. How would that look? Oh wait, it got cut off. I tried to write you, but like that. Yeah, this is ugly. This line's ugly. Needs to go straighter. There you go. Okay. Iroke. Like. Yeah, like backward and side like that. I guess so. I mean, if you're talking about like old Korean, it was top to bottom, right to left, like that. In fact, you can identify modern old Korean from old Korean by whether it goes right to left or left to right. Because when you see someone try to write old Korean, they'll write it left to right, but they'll write it top to bottom because that way you can read it. And they're like, oh, it feels fancy. But that's not how it was, because originally it would have been written Chinese, which went top to bottom, right to left. And then when they mixed in Korean with that, Hangul with that, then it would be still Hangul going the same Chinese way. And then when it swapped to all Korean, all Hangul, it still kept that form. And then only in modern Korean did it switch to be left to right top to bottom, like, I'm sorry, left to right. Yeah, left to right, and then, one sentence at a time like that. So sometimes you can see stuff written in the wrong way. Like you'll see it written in Hangul, but it's going left to right, even though it's like top to bottom and then left to right. And you're like, they tried. Horizontal version of Palestine. What's horizontal version? So there's also the type of Korean you'll also read if you're familiar with Hanja and you visit any Korean building. You'll also see that they have a name. Each of the buildings or the sections will have a name of the area, or usually it's like the gate that you're in. Like it'll start with like this, like that. These are also written right to left. So you'll read it this way and not like, it's not Mun Ha Kwang like that. It'll be Kwang Ha Mun written in reverse. Although sometimes the newer signs, they actually switch them and it'll be in order. Like they replace the sign and they put it in the wrong order. That way people can read it. Because it's made for older Koreans to read it. It's not made to be in the original Chinese style. So sometimes you see both versions. But the original one was right to left. 쓸 때 다른 글자의 크기에 맞게 못 쓰고 온 문장을 만들기 쉽다. Yes. So, yeah, it depends how you want to write it. I think, though, a good tip is... So, typically you learn it as like a square. So, like, depending on what syllable block, like hang, like that. And then when you erase it, when you write it in that form, and then you're left with kind of like that. But that's not really how Korean gets written, even though this is the form for how they all get written. What actually the nice type of Korean ends up looking like is more like this. So whatever syllable block you're using, and there are 6 of them, they're all on my cheat sheet. You can get the cheat sheet for the Korean alphabet. So whatever form you're using, so let's say we're going to do Kang again here. Use them like this. Squish the block and they'll look a lot more natural, like that. And then if you really want to get it good, you switch it, you make it much smaller. But it's supposed to be like a small stretched. It's supposed to be like a small stretched what's the word? Rectangle? That's the word I was thinking of. Like that. So yeah, squish it to like this and then make all of the regular forms. You want to do a 4-character talk. Like that. Like it's supposed to be like this, not a square actually. But I think square's fine for practicing because you can get graph paper really easily and practice how to write it. But then when you want to make it look really natural, Korean tends to squish it a little bit higher. And if you want your Korean to have a very poetic style, like a very formal style, then squish it like this, even further. And a lot of people do this. So I noticed this when I started analyzing letters written by K-pop celebrities, but a lot of K-pop celebrities will actually write like that. Kang. Like that. Sorry, I messed that up. Try that again. Like they'll write things much longer, like that. And it's just a style, like li, lang, like that. They make the blocks much thinner. And it's just a style of writing, and it takes up less space. It looks pretty. And if you want to be extreme, you can do like really stretch it out as far as you can, like bi, lang, like that. You can get a bit extreme with it. Too big, like that. But normally I think something like this, like a little not this, but a little bit stretched out, like 2-to-1. Yeah, like 2-to-1 ratio of a rectangle, and then drawing the syllable blocks in that will make it look really nice and natural. Yeah, they do lose the chubbiness. So it depends what you want. Like the chubby style, I'm going to do, actually that's a little bit too much of a square. So let's do Hilli, the chubby style, and then half of that. Hilli. So we get one. Actually, I could just erase this to make it easy. So this is the regular chubby style and then the thinner style. Which do you like? They both look nice. But I don't know. I kind of like this one. I think this one is going to be more common. And this one, yeah, is more chubby. So it depends what you want. You want more of like a chubby feeling or like a thin feeling? Okay, I'll just keep going for 2 more minutes. 3 more minutes, then we'll stop for today. Korea has a national hunger museum. Yes, they do. It's pretty cool. I went there before. 뚱뚱한 글자 귀엽다고 생각하기는 해요. You can say 뚱뚱한 글자가 귀여울걸요? Like, oh, I think they're kind of cute, actually. Like that. Like you're contradicting me by me saying the bigger ones look like chubby and everything. You're like contradicting. You're saying, oh, actually, I think they look kind of cute. But without saying, I think they look cute. You're not saying that. You're like, oh, I think they look kind of cute, actually. So you could use it in this form as well. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? Last questions. Then we'll stop for today. Again, no live stream next Sunday, just because we do 2 live streams in a row and then one off. But there will be another one the week after that. And I think it's going to be there's one more topic that was on the vote. I can't remember what it is right now, but it'll be whatever the other topic that wasn't chosen this time for that next live stream in 2 weeks. Oh, that's sour. Like lime flavor. Okay. Any other questions? How much time for TOPIK 4? From what level? From 0? Probably like 3 years. Without any other information. I'm just going to say 3 years. There's no one who can get to TOPIK 4 from 0 within 6 months or anything like that. Yeah, I would say minimum is if you're going insane, like insanely studying like crazy, a year, like while living in Korea and everything. But yeah, it's going to take a while. If you're already at a different level though, then it could be shorter. I have 2 years, 2 years from nothing. Are you living in Korea and taking intensive Korean courses and have lots of Korean friends? Then sure. It's possible. You're outside of Korea, only watch Korean dramas occasionally with English subtitles and listen to BTS? Probably not in 2 years. Just giving you the realistic results. Probably not. But yeah, I'd rather people don't have unrealistic expectations, because I think all of you are smart enough and capable enough of learning Korean to any level. Like imagine like a really unintelligent person, that the most unintelligent person that you know. Imagine them, whoever it is, they speak English very well, right? They might not know a lot of vocab, but they could understand, they could watch movies without subtitles, right? They could talk with people about anything, even if they don't know the words, they can still talk about any topic they want. Even the dumbest person you know speaks your language natively. Maybe not as good as others, but still, it doesn't have to be like any of you, no matter who you are smart and capable of learning the language. It's really just a matter of time. You just need enough time to do it. You need enough practice to do it, but all of you can. So yeah, if I can be anything besides just a teacher, I want you to feel confident in yourself. Don't set yourself up for failure, make unrealistic goals and feel like, oh, I just couldn't do it. It was too hard. No. It's not too hard. You set a crazy goal that no one could have gotten. Even like a genius couldn't have gotten your goal. Like if you're trying to get TOPIK 4 in like 3 months or something like that, and you don't do it, oh man, I just wasn't smart enough. It was Korean kicked my butt. No, you set yourself up for failure with that goal. So be kind to yourself, make realistic goals, and be honest with yourself. Like, can you actually devote the time it takes to learn it? Are you actually trying to do listening practice? Are you trying to do speaking practice or not? Like, if you are and you're doing it, then don't worry. You're learning. You're getting better. And if you're ever worried about how you're doing, hire a tutor every once in a while and have them check your Korean and give you tips and stuff like that. But you're doing a good job. Keep it up. And all of you definitely can learn Korean. Yeah, you can aim much higher, but don't assume you'll get there. Yeah, I just feel like don't set a crazy goal and then feel bad when you don't hit it. Yeah, 4 months. Challenge accepted. Well, if you're already level 3, and you aced level 3, then sure, you can do TOPIK level 4 in 3 months. Go ahead. Just it's still going to be hard, but sure, you can try it. I think of the dumb people I've seen that speak Korean, and that helps me stay positive. Yeah, and it's not just native Korean speakers. There are non-native Korean speakers who can speak really good Korean that could be dumb. It doesn't really have to do with your intelligence. Now, being smart helps speed things up. You get to save yourself a lot of headache, and you might end up having better, more proper Korean than they do, and you know more etymology, you know more words and expressions and all that. Sure, but as far as a Korean is concerned, they're not going to detect, oh, this foreigner knew this etymology word and this person only knew this natural expression. Like, they're not going to care. They just care, can you talk with them? Like, how are you able to understand what they say, or do they think that you understand what you're saying? That's all they care about. Yeah, you definitely can do it. I do not consider myself that smart. People say, Billy, oh, you're so good at learning languages. Oh man, Billy, you must be so smart. You learn Korean. I'm kind of dumb. Honestly, I kind of feel like average or below average sometimes, maybe a lot of times. But like, you see me, I'm freaking teaching Korean. I got it. I'm doing it. I'm living the life. I'm teaching it. But I'm still honestly not, I don't really think I'm that smart of a person. I'm like kind of normal, I guess. Some things I feel like, oh, I'm pretty smart. Yeah. Other things I feel like, what? Like, how do I not know that? How am I that dumb? So yeah, I'll tell people who are wondering, like, how long does it take to learn Korean like you, Billy? I'm like, well, you probably learn Korean better than me. I don't know. Just study a long time, talk with lots of people. If you think about grammar all the time in the shower, then you'll probably get to where I am, because that's what I do. And ADHD doesn't hurt. Undiagnosed, even better. Now and get TOPIK 3 in 2 years. Live in Korea. Make lots of Korean friends. Listen to Korean TV shows, podcasts, like variety shows, talk shows. Listen to those things all the time, every day. Talk as much as you can with your Korean friends in Korean, and practice as much grammar as you can when you're not doing that. That's my tip. But it is still a very tight goal to get to a TOPIK, any sort of TOPIK level in a specific amount of time. It's still not going to be an easy goal. Unless it's like TOPIK 1. I mean, you could take TOPIK 1 probably in less than a year of just regular studying, because that's just, that's the really basics of the language. TOPIK 1 and TOPIK 2 for the first 2 levels. Beyond that, though, you have to start actually learning how to speak, and that takes actual practice, and a lot of it. Yeah, there is a study group. I haven't gone there very much, but it's active. Lots of people do studying. There was a book club. I'm not sure if that's still going on, but yeah, there's some people studying there. So go check out my Discord, and I'll put a link to that. It's free. 나름대로 공부해야 되고 달성하고 있는 다짐 세워야 되죠. Gotta make a resolution that you are improving. Book club? Okay, cool. Yeah, I knew there was. I'm glad there still is. Being smart might help you also complicate everything. That's true too. See, sometimes I feel like, oh man, I'm pretty smart, and then it just makes things harder if I think about Korean in depth. Then yeah, it gets more complicated. So yeah, don't worry about it. You can learn. Language learning doesn't have to do anything with that. It's just about how much are you able to invest in it? How much time are you given to it? You know, and then the comprehending it will just help make it take a little bit less time, but you still have to do the same work that anyone else does who's not studying, who's only just listening and trying to speak. But yeah. Okay. That is our lesson for today. Thank you everyone for coming, and I will see you again next time, which will be in 2 weeks from now, not next week. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.